Thank you for taking the time and making the trip, and the fact that you're all here actually means that half my presentation is not going to be required because you know what's going on in this country. Right, Poland. Of course, as everybody knows, this is Poland Inc. open for business, right? It is neither a business nor is it open. Of course, this is no longer the case. We all know this, right? I mean, the point that is actually quite fascinating is that the transition of the last 25 years that we have seen unfold before our very eyes is still going on. So, you know, as we have heard said before, the future is here, just not evenly distributed. This is very much the case of the future not being evenly distributed. But of course, that is an aspect that is going. So, Poland, right. A largish country in the center of Europe, roughly 40 million people. Do I need to kind of go on about this, or do you guys are you kind of au fait with the stats?
I found a way from the airport to here, so I'm glad.
So far so good. We know where we are, but the point of today's presentation is that it is actually not just Warsaw. Quite unusual in terms of the innovation space and the innovation ecosystem, let's call it, is that we have not one, not two, not three, but a number of regional centers where innovation is happening and is happening apace. So it's going to be a great day. Right, context, we all know where we are, right? The point is we are right in the middle of Europe. The center of Europe, is 100 kilometers from this spot. If you draw a line from Norway down to Greece and from Portugal over to the Urals, they meet more or less where my house is. But regional centers is a thing that not a lot of countries actually have in terms of this sort of level of activity. Gdańsk and Kraków, you guys are probably familiar with. Poznań, maybe less so. Łódź, historically a very important industrial city, famous film school, lots of famous film directors, now rebranding itself seriously as a creative hub. Wrocław, which not many people mention in the same breath as Kraków and Warsaw and Gdańsk, but they will soon because there is a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And we have Szczecin, and we have Toruń, and Olsztyn, and Białystok, and Rzeszów, and Katowice, and interestingly, Cieszyn down here, which actually houses a really interesting design center in a castle. In the castle we have a design center, and they talk about the latest stuff. So that's the context. Consultants tell us that this place actually is worth investing in. They get paid a lot of money to say these things, so I guess we should believe them. We all know this, where most of the EU countries are not doing so well. Poland, somehow by force of sheer will, stubbornness, and momentum, has managed to keep rolling. And the thing that we shouldn't forget is that these people out there, they work damn hard. They work some of the longest hours in the EU. Not only that, they actually want to improve on what it is they produce. However, there are problems. It's not all good. And we'll talk about the problems a little also. There are challenges, but they can be overcome. In terms of size, Poland's GDP is bigger than all of those. Which is kind of refreshing if you think about it. And the people aspect of all this is that we have a well-educated, largely young, for the moment, aging, same as the rest of Europe, but still largely young population who want to do things. They really have a fire in the belly. I spent some of my time at the design school, at the Arts Academy in Warsaw, and the amount of energy and commitment and drive that half these people have. Not everybody, they're not like atypical students. They're kind of like, we all remember back in the day, but half of them have real drive to get things done, and that's hugely positive. One thing that we don't always necessarily own up to immediately, and maybe we should realize that this is a positive thing, not a negative thing, is that we are intensely competitive. This means that in an everyday setting, it comes out all wrong sometimes, as gruff and pushy. But if you take the positive aspects of this and actually translate it into a business setting, there's kind of not a lot wrong with a bit of competition, right? Good things are happening in terms of the law and infrastructure. If you take a look at where infrastructure was 5 years ago, as compared to where it is today, chalk and cheese. And me, that's me. I am the massive global diaspora. There are Polish people living virtually everywhere, millions of them. 10 million in America, 2 million in Germany, 1 million in France, 500,000 or more in the UK. And the cool thing is that a lot of these people want to retain a connection to the mother country in some way. And a lot of these people now are interested in building businesses, cross-border businesses, all coming here and starting enterprises. So this is the landscape with all the challenges and the opportunities. So one thing that I've noticed over the few years that I've been here is that the level of energy and internal pressure that people have to get things done, to achieve, is huge. These are driven people. They're not lazy and competitive. TEDx. TEDx has been a reflection actually of what has been going on in this country. When we started it 6 years ago, there was kind of not a lot going on in terms of people cooperating, getting together, gelling. Right now, there are so many events and so many meetups and get-togethers and opportunities for people to sit and talk and share and learn from each other, that actually you could go virtually every day to something and have an opportunity to share. So, 6 years, lots going on. The point being is that what happened around the hub that we created was a really good indication of A, the pressure to do interesting things, B, the desire to share time and space with interesting people, and C, do stuff together. There have been lots of projects that have sprung out of our event. There have now been about 150 TEDx events in Poland. Ours was the first. We were actually number 59 in the world. And virtually every well-run TEDx, the organizers will tell you that people have met, they have collaborated, they've built stuff together, or got married, or at least proposed on stage, as was the case with us. May this year, we visited the presidential palace at the last year, at the invitation of El Presidente, who came and visited and said that it was cool, which was neither here nor there. The point is, there is awareness at the highest levels of government that the energy needs to be channeled, and that there are positive hubs, positive opportunities to do it, which kind of reflects the improvements in infrastructure in this country, from this to this, which brings me to the next point. We bought about, 65 of these, I think, yeah, from Italy. We sold, not these, but this company, PESA, sold, I think, 450 locomotives to Germany. And the Germans are saying that these are really great. Which is kind of cool, selling engineering products to Germany, right? Manufacturing base in this country is really is well developed. It is not as sophisticated as in other places necessarily across the board, but there are places where there is huge activity and lots of good stuff going on. Solaris, a company to watch. Cosmetics. Not many people know this, but Poland is a major exporter of cosmetics. Auto parts to Volkswagen. Okay, to these Volkswagen, right? Massive supply. Lots of work being done in the south, in Silesia, put on trains, shipped to Germany, assembled, and sold. Closer to my world, the digital world, Polish animators and graphic artists are well known as being huge achievers in CGI and in gaming. This is The Witcher. You don't want to meet this guy. Hugely popular game. You guys can talk about it. And of course we have this. Manufacturing, as I was saying, has been actually growing extremely dynamically since the transition. This is a company owned by a friend of mine, which exports pretty much everywhere where people buy furniture and building products. This is a company that is scaring the living daylights out of the Danes who have the market on this particular type of window, cornered, but not for much longer. This is a $1 billion company that provides software services to the banking and finance industries. There are large organizations here that have been growing for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and they are serious players in the business. We also sell apples. Now, when the Russians, lovely people that they are, banned Polish fruit and veg, they kind of missed the point, because Polish apples are in the single percentage points of our exports. Actually, we are one of the world's great powers when it comes to windows and doors. Building joinery. The point is, to make these things en masse with enough precision for doors to keep, that requires systems, that requires knowledge. That knowledge is already here. But it's important to compare apples with apples, right? When this report came out, which is terrific, I saw this headline, and I thought, yes. And then I read that it is actually within the region, right? Comparing apples with apples, right? We're not comparing with, these fine institutions. We're comparing with institutions within the region. We haven't had 100, 200 years of uninterrupted freedom and opportunity to build stuff. Give it time. We're catching up. Like Mars, for instance. That's a good place to catch up. There is a university in Rzeszów, of all places, which on the map was sort of down here. For I don't know how many years running, they've been winning competitions for space exploration vehicles. Rzeszów. So it's not just Warsaw. A few examples of startups that are springing up in various locations. You may or may not have heard about the early successes of Polish 3D printing companies. These are two of them. The main ones, Omni 3D and Zotrax. This one's in Olsztyn, which is the town up here on the map. Showroom, this is a company that some of you will know. This is a company that puzzles me, but then of course I don't go taking pictures of myself and sending them to my mates and saying, should I buy this tie? But apparently there are people who do. And they're in Gdańsk. This is a massive company. Nobody knows about them unless you're in the gaming world, and if you're in the gaming world, they are gods. This is what they produce. Dice that connect the real world with the virtual world. So tools for gamers. Live Chat, another company that nobody knows about unless nobody talks about unless you know, and if you know, you talk about them all the time because they're in a highly competitive market for continuous live website support with B2C, and they have, I forget how many % of the market, but it is pretty impressive. And they don't go to conferences, they don't kind of write PR releases, they just get on with it, right? They're in Wrocław and in the States. Hardware is something that Polish engineers understand very well, and of course tie this up with software, and you have the whole Internet of Things going on. Beacons are something that a number of Polish companies are venturing into. This is one of them. We have productivity suites being used by people in Japan. Doc Planner is actually known locally as znany lekarz, yeah? Yes. The known doctor, right? The doctor you know, right? Essentially, very simple online system where you find a doctor, you book an appointment whenever he or she is available. A very interesting company, has been around for about 10 years. They decided that it would be a really good idea to offer people the ability to experience books, not just read them. So they've been producing audiobooks for the last 10 years, and they're at the top of the market. They sell all over Europe, and they've just done a series of deals, not one deal, a series of deals to have factory installs of the software into vehicles that leave these factories. So you drive along and you listen to Harry Potter being narrated and acted out complete with Foley effects and everything. Another interesting company, they say their recommendation algorithm is as good as Netflix. Quietly, they say it's better than Netflix. The guy who runs it is actually one of the more prominent characters on the Warsaw scene. Runs a co-working space in a sort of a meetup get-together thing, kind of over that way in the north of the city. Ivona, you may have heard about this. This was reasonably big news a little while ago when Amazon decided that they wanted voice synthesizers that actually worked. So this is a company that allows people who have no interior design skills, like me, to design interiors of the houses, which is actually what I did for a bedroom and a bathroom that we're doing right now. My wife's actually talking to the plumber this morning. Millions of people hook up and use the system all over the world. And Polish engineers and Polish startup founders in general are becoming very, very open to international to cross-border and generally international cooperation. The general idea is you go, you create an open office sort of a thing where people buy cheap tickets to go and talk to startup founders in their offices in the city, which creates buzz and builds the ecosystem. They're doing one in Berlin, just coming up. Big events are happening regularly now. This is a sort of a Polish South by Southwest, which has been run in Krakow and is coming to Warsaw this summer. The ecosystem of recruitment and support and everything else that has grown vastly. This is a company that is now quite sizable. Pracuj means work. Right? And this says find a job. And these guys have been getting more and more interested in what we're doing. Both the European end of TechCrunch and also the American end of TechCrunch. I'll talk about that in a minute. And just recently wrote up about Startup Poland, which is an organization which has been created recently by a bunch of people from within the ecosystem to give the ecosystem a voice, because it didn't have one. My experience in the 6 years of TEDx is directly reflected in the experience of the ecosystem as a whole. From granular, separate individuals getting on with stuff in the Polish super competitive and kind of closed fashion, which has been the traditional approach, to all of a sudden sitting down around the table, not unlike this one, and saying, let's figure out a way that's good for everybody, because if it's good for everybody, then it's good for everybody. So it takes a while to learn these things, but we're getting there. So this is now an organization which interfaces with the government, and there are educational outreach ideas and all sorts of things going on. And I'm very happy that the inspiration came from Australia. Very cool project. Battery-powered, wireless, high-fidelity recording. You put microphones around the room, record the ambience, and then you, as you play it back, you have the ambience of the room exactly in 3D, spatial recording, which for music gigs, fantastic. Very cool project from Krakow. Started as these things do, as an idea by a student who wanted to have a more social approach to learning. Now they're in 35 countries and in 12 language versions. General idea is you learn with your friends. And not just software. As I said, Polish engineers are renowned for the hardware nous, and they're catching up in terms of technologies and know-how, and quickly overtaking their colleagues in other countries. And this is a very basic but highly sophisticated system, which if you're an apple or a fruit grower or a vegetable grower, the handling of individual fruit, of single apples, is such a pain in the ass. I mean, if you have, if you're a wholesaler, imagine this. So they have created an automated system which has just won awards and blah, 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 blah. Another company that is going great guns, or at least going great guns if you read the PR releases, in the Internet of Things space, iBeacons. It's interesting because they started very early with supplying an SDK and inviting exterior developers to develop apps over the top of their infrastructure. And we all know that Siri, for all the wonderful hype, actually sucks. So this is the next generation of Siri that is not going to suck. And since we're on the subject of interior design, I could go on like this. I only have 150 slides. Everyone is an interior designer if you have, or at least a furniture designer if you have one of these things. A lot of in fact, all of the projects that I just showed, the last half dozen or 8 or so, have had money from the government, which in Silicon Valley, this is like touching a very large, very smelly turd. We don't have a 50-year history of venture capital in this country. We need to rely on other sources of money. The National Center for Research and Development, which is something of a misnomer because it's not a center for research and development. This is a government organization that funds and promotes research and development and knowledge transfer and development of commercial entities. They are throwing large piles of money at technology projects of all sorts, and some of it lands in places where it doesn't get used very well. A lot of it lands in places where it does get used very well. Later this year, we're going to have, we're going to cheat. The TechCrunch conferences, high profile, lots of money, lots of hype. We kind of don't have the history, but we have the energy. So we're going to cheat, and we're going to cut down the amount of time required to get up to speed. So we'll start with a roadshow in at least 4, maybe more regional centers, and then in the autumn we will have a large conference in Warsaw. This will be preceded by an educational program where we are going to teach the young start-uppers not how to be innovative, because that they know, but how to actually run a business and how to present it in such a way that investors actually can gauge whether or not this thing has potential by more than simply a gut feeling. So we're trying to de-risk your job. And we're going to concentrate on good things known as deliverables, as opposed to merely having a nice time. There are any number of events that you can go to. I was at one not a month ago, and they all kind of look the same, where you have the usual suspects come and talk about the usual things, and beautiful young women in high heels walk around with plates of food, and everybody has a nice time, and then nothing happens. What we'd like to do is create an opportunity for real exchange of ideas and real building of projects and deals. Not just yet another pitch-off, right? How many pitch-offs have you guys been to? Can you count? Can you remember more than like 1 or 2? I don't know, I can't. And I'm not a VC. I'm not swamped by these things every day. So I'll be letting you know, and you can let the guys know what's going on, and then you're all welcome here in the autumn. Pitango's here. This is actually an interesting example because Point 9 is actually run by a Polish expat in Germany. They invested in some of the companies that I talked about. Large multinationals are opening R&D centers all over the show, not just in Warsaw, not just in Krakow. And we're kind of chuffed with with this, and you may not know, but Google is opening the 3rd campus in Warsaw this year, which is kind of funky. I don't know if it means what we think it means, but it means something good. And I'll just finish up with some companies that I've been watching and that I've been involved with personally. This is a really good example of tenacious, stubborn sons of bitches getting on with it. Stream Online is a streaming company that started 6 years ago, I think, with 2 boxes and a kind of a bunch of wires and a camera, and where do we plug into the internet? Please. This is actually off the streamonline.uk. They're now exporting to the UK, and they're doing very well. And apparently, the word is that the competition don't know what hit them because they were so complacent and so friggin' expensive. Where these guys came in and said, well, actually, we do it better and we do it faster. We don't do it for half the price, but you will save money. Right? This is the Polish site. really good example of skills and tenacity applied over time. This is a company I'm advising in Ireland. Very simple idea, reverse auction for logistics. You have something to move, you post it, and logistics companies bid on giving you the best price. This is a company that I'm advising in London, built by a Dutch Canadian and an English designer. They're working on the MVP now. Simple idea: you take Booking.com and the Travel Channel and you put them together. And this is going to be a lot of fun. This is a company that's just starting here, founded by a biologist. And it's a really good example of what Polish scientists are learning now, and learning very, very quickly. That life in academia is just fine, but there's kind of a lot more fun and a lot more energy on this side of the fence. And the National Center for Research and Development, actually one of their main goals, strategic goals, is to facilitate knowledge transfer. Because there is a lot of knowledge, not a lot of it is being transferred just yet. So this is a company which builds data analysis algorithms using models found in nature. Kind of biomimicry. It's really funky. General idea: you take any kind of data set, like for instance a social forum or email flow within an organization, and you can pinpoint who the people are within the organization, who are the hubs, where the bottlenecks are, and who it is that you really need to be talking to in the organization if you want to get people, if you want everybody to know about stuff. Because quite often it is not the CEO. Quite often it is someone over here who just knows everybody. And Velocicaptor, which is a very funky fitness product, which is going to be a bracelet which monitors your movements and allows you to. It's basically a sort of a personal trainer in your phone. So it's not just Warsaw, and there's a lot going on, and this really is just scratching the surface. I could go through several more bottles and a lot more of your valuable time. So if I can just say that we're open for business, and this is where you can find me, and I thank you for your time.